Call of Duty Black Ops 3, you may not know it, but it has a campaign and it has a zombies mode. And Activision have fired that trigger and released all the information. Well, not all of the information, but a lot of information about it. Obviously, people get excited about Call of Duty every year, mostly because they want to go online and shoot people.
Yeah.
But Treyarch this year, in my opinion, they didn't say this specifically to me, but they insinuated that this is the year they want to bring that back. They want to bring the balance back. They want people to play multiplayer, they want to play zombies, they want to play campaign, they want to do all of it. So I've got 8 things, Burns. 8 things that I took from a big presentation they gave me last week, which I believe prove that they're trying to make campaign more relevant than it ever has been.
You say them, I'll ask questions.
Right, done. The first one is you can play the last level first.
No.
Think of that.
No.
Think of that. In a
Don't believe it.
single-player story. Because the other thing as well, their big thing they wanted to push was the story is going to blow your mind. This story is multi-layered. You know, you Burns, you're going to take away one thing, Miller, you're going to take away something else.
Yeah.
It's like, how do you know mine and my work counterpart and friend's name? But they did. But that you can. So you start the game, and if you've been playing the game for 10 hours, and I want to play co-op with you, it's 4-player co-op as well, you can say, Miller, come and play the last level with me. I'll even lend you this level 24 gun. And I'll be like, well, thank you very much. And you just jump in. The Treyarch's thing is, it's your game, it's your content, and you should be able to take that content in however you see fit.
Oh, that's interesting. Is it like Crackdown, the original? Because in the original Crackdown, you could go and try and fight the last boss first.
No, because this is very... We'll skip forward a little bit, and we'll get back to it in a minute, but there's a thing called the Safe House. And the Safe House is basically your offline lobby, for lack of a better term. We'll get to that in a minute, but you have to start or trigger missions from that point. So it's not like Crackdown where you have a big open city, you can just go and accept missions as and when. There is a level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4.
But I mean, thematically, like, would the game end if you did that last level?
Yes, they didn't hint at anything otherwise. It sounds like, let's say there's 20 levels. They said it's the longest campaign ever. So it's going to be about 14 hours, 15 hours. They did not, to me anyway, they made it quite clear that no, you just finish the game. You just get the ending. I mean, you're going to ruin the story for yourself a little bit, but if that's the way you want to do it, the game will just trigger its endpoints as and when you get to that point.
That's good. That is good. I mean,
I like it.
Yeah, when you buy a DVD or a Blu-ray, you know, you can just skip and watch the last scene with your friends.
Their argument was it's the Netflix model. You know, Narcos right now, fantastic series. You can watch the last episode first if you want. That's why I think this is a way to make it feel like, because in multiplayer, Burns, you want to play multiplayer? Yep, you jump into a map, you go. It's the same with this. Do you want to play single player? It's not like, well, you haven't got to this point yet. It's like, well, just go. What level do you want to play? That's why you can trade weapons. That's why it doesn't matter what level you are in single player. You just do it. To me, it's a very smart move.
No, smart boys.
Number 2 is campaign is basically trying to allow you to customize stuff as much as you can in multiplayer, which again, they didn't say that specifically, but given everything they told me. So basically, it's got this thing they claim the whole setup of the game is system agnostic, meaning there's dozens of systems you can use and abilities you can apply to yourself, but none are fundamentally better than the other one. They may be better for you because you either level them up or it just suits your playing style, but depending how you approach the game, depends which systems are probably going to work for you as a player. Now, what does that sound like? That's the multiplayer of Call of Duty, you know, summed up. So it's one of those things where if you do jump in at level 5 and you've been playing this whole thing, I can toy around with stuff and find out to the point where I feel like I'm on level par with you now. It's not, because like, first-person shooter single player is usually, there's your gun, go kill everything. There's not usually, I mean, there'll be other ideas and other mechanics to said game that make it unique, but not to this point. And again, when they were telling me this stuff, I'm like, well, that's just multiplayering the single player. Which, again, I'm not down on. I'm really not. One thing I did come away from after this event was I actually think this is what they should do. I mean, will I play single player of COD? Maybe. This year more than last year's, most definitely. Now, this is getting to the point. This is number 3, the thing we were talking about earlier. There is an offline lobby, which is called the Safe House.
Yeah.
Now, here you can do anything you want. There's something called the PDV, which apparently if you play the first Black Ops, which I did, but I can't remember. It's something like personal data viewer or something like that. Yeah. But that is where you can access the majority of the story. It will still tell you a story, but if you want that kind of depth, it's all there. Apparently there's a load of Easter eggs and hidden things in there as well. That was just a like wink, wink, nudge, nudge thing. But the whole point of the Safe House is that's where you can change your emblems, discover hidden game modes, like I just said, customize your character, see what collectibles you found, discover in-game challenges, muck around with your loadout, build a weapon, choose your wildcards. It is a lobby. It's just that when... There's also this weird like immersion center as well, where you can go in, you can try out a load of guns or abilities you may not have unlocked yet.
Oh, yeah.
And see how they work for you in your play style. Again, much like if you go and just walk around some maps by yourself to see what you think about them. I know I'm repeating myself here, but all I could think was this is just an interactive lobby. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Even when, so if you're playing, as soon as you enter my room or my safe house, a little door opens, you can come look at my bunk, which I've decorated up, and I can come look at your bunk. Like, this is just what you do before you hit go. You go to a door, you choose your mission, and away you go.
Yeah.
So again,
It's interesting. I'm interested to see exactly how it's all going to come together.
I genuinely think this year, I mean, I've got no problem with Call of Duty's multiplayer. I think it does a great job. I'm kind of past the point now thinking it's going to falter. It's got enough momentum to take it to wherever it wants to go. But the innovation this year, to me, comes in single player, comes in the campaign. We'll get to zombies as well, but there's not much really to say about that. It's just zombies. And again, in single player, you've got abilities that can all be upgraded. I know that's not completely new to the Call of Duty single player campaign, but they've introduced stuff called cyber cores, because obviously we're in like super future now, so you can't just call abilities.
Whenabouts are we?
It's a year after the Black Ops 2 story. A year has passed, so it's like 2047. No, that's too early. I don't know. Well in the future. Cyber cores have sub setups that you can use. So one would be Marshall Cyber Core. That gives you the power of takedown, which is a big punch where you can punch people in the face and it's one hit kill. And you've got stuff like active camo, concussion wave, and overdrive, which makes you go really fast. You know where all they've come from. You've heard about them before. But again, to try and give some form of freedom to the player, or at least some idea that, you know, much when you're trying to work out... Because certain people, when they play the multiplayer, they go into a level, with this level, I want to be that guy because I know that it's better for combat's going to be a lot more close range, so I have a shotgun setup or stuff.
Okay.
Same kind of stuff here. So the next one you can choose is Chaos. Now, Chaos kind of focuses more on taking out humans than it does the robot side of things. So you can fire electricity, you can use enemy explosives against them, you can call a defense drone to protect you, or the most interesting of all, you can use the sonic anti-air, which makes the opponents throw up until they're dead. Which is a real thing people have.
Oh, it's just a big NeoGAF screen that comes up and they read some of it and then they're out.
I think that's where it came from. That was the inspiration. But again, I think this is... Because they did say as well that the campaign is a co-op game, not a single-player game that's been made co-op. And so I think, again, if you, me, and two other people are playing and you're Chaos, I may want to take on the cyber core of Control, because the whole point of Control is, as the name kind of gives you an idea, is that's you focusing on the robotic threat. You know, in the future now, you've got all this cyborg nonsense running around. And that gives you stuff like Protocol Override that turns robots in your favor, classic thing. Surge, which means you can choose a robot and that robot will blow up. Remote Hijack, so you can pilot an enemy robot and fly it around. Or Ravage Core, which basically means you get into the robot's core, turn it into explosives, send it over to things, bada bing, bada boom, they're all dead. So again, if you're using Control and I'm using Control, it's like we don't really need to do this. And it's that kind of balancing between... I definitely think the focus of single player, I should call it campaign because it doesn't make any sense, is the co-op aspect. They definitely have... Because the maps are a lot bigger as well. I call them maps.
They got to be, haven't they?
Well, they're huge. And that kind of ties into, you know, point number 5, which is about how they're assigning, or how they're working in the technology of the future. And the big thing, I mean, a lot of them you've heard before, all the stuff on your D-pad gives you the wall running abilities, or you can choose to steal people's fingerprints. Because it's got that whole thing where guns are ID'd. So you can't just pick up guns anymore.
Metal Gear Solid 4.
Yeah, all that kind of nonsense. And revive teammates, trigger night vision. But the interesting thing, and this is almost point number 6, this is where it comes into its own, is that because of where we are in the future, you now have color-coded areas on the battlefield which will tell you, if you stand in that position, the potential threat. So if you stand there, 12 people actually have their guns on you and probably likely to take you out. So it gives it... I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still run and gun. It's still Call of Duty. It's still very bombastic. It's a load of Michael Bay bits. One of the levels I was shown, like they were supposed to extract out, someone blew up their plane, so they fell on a roof, and then they're running across rooftops.
Never get in an aerial vehicle.
No, when you're trying to extract. Never do it. But
get in a boat.
I did think that does give it somewhat more of a strategic edge, which I guess you want if you're doing co-op. You want to be able to say to your mate, oh, don't go there. 8 people will kill you. And he's like, oh, cheers, mate. I didn't see that. I thought it was interesting how actually, you know, turns out in the big... It may just be a throwaway thing you look at and go, well, I won't stand there then because I'll be shot.
I won't stand on the hot spot.
But to me, it just all came together to make me think, okay, they're doing something... the campaign has some worth to it. I know they've taken it out of the Xbox 360 and PS3 versions, and I can kind of understand why, because it feels bigger than it ever has done. It feels like a lot more time and effort is being put into it. Now, the last 2 points, 7 and 8, are about zombies. These aren't the greatest points in the world, but I could just tell you...
It's about zombies. I don't much like it myself.
It's just zombies. It is just zombies. Like, you got Jeff Goldblum, Ron Perlman, Heather Graham, and Neil McDonough in it. You probably don't know that.
Who's Neil McDonough?
He's in Band of Brothers. You recognise his face. Everyone go
Okay.
type in Neil. They go, oh yeah, it's that guy. I know that guy.
He needs a better name. Neil McDonough.
He doesn't live up to Jeff Goldblum, does he? Everyone knows Jeff
He
Goldblum.
should be like Neil Diamond or something.
The only thing I'd say about Zombies is it's bigger than it ever has been. You've got a full progression system, upgrades, unlocks. The level is massive. It's called Shadows of Evil. It's like a 1930s inspired.
Oh yeah, I saw some of that.
Yeah, it's called Morgue City. My only worry, I'm not a big zombie player, so people out there are probably more educated than I am. But my only thing is I saw it and I thought, have you taken a simple idea too far? It's a lot more complicated, not complicated, but a lot more complex than it ever has been.
When you say about progression and unlocks, do you let's take it from the very start. The first Zombies mode, you earned money essentially, or points, which you could barricade stuff with and get like weapons off the walls. And then later on, there were like traps you could do in like later games.
Yeah,
and stuff.
I think this.
But on this. In a progression, is it still kind of like that, or do you rank up?
It felt like it was ranking up. They were very keen not to.
Like the multiplayer, not like
That's
the
what it
Zombies
felt
been done
like to
before.
me. Like I said, they didn't say specifically on purpose. I think that's something they want to wheel out in a couple of weeks. But to me, the words and the things they were saying made it sound like it's like single player where you can upgrade stuff. It's like multiplayer. We all know that one. Now you can do the same in Zombies. Does that necessarily work? I don't know. Because to me, Zombies was more of a mini game kind of throwaway fun thing. But that all the better for it. If you give it too much depth, maybe that actually takes away. Who knows?
I remember when I first played Zombies, it was like review code had come in for, was it World at War?
Yeah, that's the first one.
And there was this rumor going around that there
you
was
know-
a Nazi zombie mode.
Do you
and
know
people
why
were
that?
aghast.
It was hidden as well. It
Yeah.
wasn't hidden because like they wanted to hide it. It was because it was made so late in the day. They're already late in getting World at War finished. It's one of these ideas that organically came from nowhere. The Activision said, "Look, you can put it in, but we haven't got any time for you to. You just have to put it in at the end."
Yeah.
On that note as well, they told me to. So I'm being a shill here a little bit, but if you're a Black Ops fan, I want to give you the medge. Apparently, if you finish Black Ops 3 campaign, you're in for quite a big unlock. So people that ignore Black Ops 3's campaign, maybe you don't want to do that. You've only got to go do one level. You don't have to do the whole game.
Unless you're on last gen.
Well, that's
Or maybe that'll just
I'll
be
be
unlocked.
interesting to see what it is. But there is some kind of unlock if you finish Black Ops 3. It could be nothing. It could be rubbish, and I may have
There was
bought
that
into their
fucking
game. But
top-down shooter in Black Ops, wasn't there?
Well, yeah.
Do you remember that? I can't remember what
they
it's
always
called.
put something weird in. But the big thing I came away with was, I mean, I'm not the biggest Call of Duty Treyarch fan. For what reason or another, I usually play them and something feels off to me. But I tell you what, there's some dedicated men and women at that studio, and their ideas are really good. And this is the first Call of Duty in a long time where I may not take my fancy, but it may do. And if it does take my fancy, it's because the effort went in. Some really good ideas. I only got to play it for a few minutes, so I can't really give you. It's just Call of Duty. I mean, nothing's changed massively there. But in terms of ideas, very impressed.
Fair enough.